guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to cover my year review of my Moza wheelbase and pedals. I figured now that I'm a Moza affiliate, it would probably be a good time for me to go over what I've got, how long I've had it, any drawbacks that I've seen in the year since I've owned it, as well as adjustments that can be made, and we'll even cover a few things that you can do within iRacing itself to make this system work to the best of your ability. So let's go ahead, we're going to jump into it, and we'll get you guys set up the right way. Okay, so first things first, I am set up with the Moza ES steering wheel. It comes originally with a 12-inch wheel rim on it. I ran with that for about 6 to 8 months, and then I went to the 12-inch mod for it. I'm pretty happy with it overall. I like the amount of buttons that it has. The drawback that I find, there are no there's no rotary encoders, so there's nothing to twist if you have, if you want buttons that you can twist up and down for brake bias or traction control or whatever. It also is an inch smaller around than the CS wheel, which is what JD McKaylee uses, which the CS comes with more round buttons. That being said, if you're looking for something to run formula on, I would not recommend this wheel. I would probably look at the KS, or depending on how much you're looking to spend, you can go up to that FSR, or there's the new GS wheel. It all kind of depends on what your price range is. But the ES wheel is definitely a heavier wheel than even the CS. So keep that in mind. If you like a heavy wheel, it may be your best bet. You can do some options where you can get a QR adapter that hooks up. It uses a standard race car style QR, and then you can put just a round wheel on it, and go that way, so you can have an actual NASCAR wheel on your Moza base. That being said, I would suggest, there is a few people on Etsy that make Velcro push buttons, so if you want your push to talk to work, that is a route to go down. Moving to the wheelbase, I opted for the R9 as the R12 was not out yet, and I wanted more power than what the R5 could offer. I'm not saying that the R5 is a bad wheelbase. If you're coming from, say, a Logitech, you may want to go ahead and go down that road and get the R5 instead. If you don't have a wheel, but you want to go direct drive right off the bat, but don't want to spend a bunch of money, an R5 bundle is a solid option, especially being the fact that it does give you pedals with it. I know a lot of people are going to say, well, the SRP light pedals don't come with a load cell. I will be putting a video out in the coming month where I have found a mod to put a load cell on SRP lights. It is from Alien Mods. He is actually sending me a load cell to put into my regular SRP pedals, because it'll work much the same, free of charge, so that way I can test that for you guys and give you my honest feedback on if it's a good option or not. So keep that in mind. Like I said, I would expect that within the next month. But the R9 base is a very it's a base that works. It offers, to me, it offers the perfect amount. The more that I turn this wheelbase up, I ran with it on 70% for probably 8 months of this last year, and then I've slowly been moving it up. I'm now running it 100% on the wheelbase itself. That's not in game. So I run 100% in the Pitous software. I run 100% in the Pitous software, and I make my adjustments in game, if that makes sense. And I'll show you that here in just a few. So, like I said, I really like this wheelbase. I've not had an issue with it. Making sure that you do your firmware updates, things like that. Keep that stuff up to date. and you shouldn't have any issues. If you do run into a problem with a firmware update, you can always do the offline installer and you'll bring it right back. So nothing to be scared of there. I also have the, like I said before, the SRP pedals. I really enjoy them. I'm actually looking at the 3D wrap mod for the gas and clutch pedal. But as far as my current configuration with the load cell brake, I run the stiffest spring and I run the stiffest bumper that I can. To me, it gives it a very two-stage feel, number one. Number two, when you're really going to have to mash on it to lock them up. And that, trying to stop the lockups is the biggest thing, right? Because you're trying to have as much feedback as you can, but without, like, say, a rumble motor on it, you're going to be hard-pressed to get that. So if I can eliminate the possibility of a lockup via bumpers and stuff like that, I will go that route. But overall, I've really liked these pedals. I know that there's more expensive ones out there. I know there's people that say they hate the SRP pedals, but for what I would consider an entry-level load cell setup, they are very capable for anyone. There's a lot of different things that are out there. You can change the pedal faces. There's guys on Etsy that make all sorts of things. The thing that I really liked is, for the price, they were just a tick under 200 without the clutch pedal. It's about 230 with the clutch. But they come with a heel plate. I know, like the Huskenvelds, you've either got to make one or buy one from somewhere, and you're spending $600-700 on a set of pedals. You know, I'm handy enough, I can make my own heel plate if I need to. But if I'm already spending that kind of money, why doesn't it come with it? I mean, you can even go to the CRP pedals from Moza. They still come with a heel plate. So, and those are machined aluminum pedals. I have not had a chance to use the CRP pedals. I know a couple of guys in our Discord do. They really like those pedals as well. So you can spend a little bit more on pedals or choose not to. But like I said, if you're looking for a way to get into load cell pedals, I can't sell you wrong on the SRP pedals. Like I said, if you don't need the clutch pedal, go buy it without the clutch pedal. I got it mainly for the sheer fact of in the 87s, it's faster for me to shift with clutch. But yeah, overall, I've been really happy. Okay, so this is the inside of the Pitous software. I just want to show you guys a few things with it, especially if you're new to Moza, haven't used a Moza or anything like that. Obviously, we can see the wheel. As long as your wheel's on, it will, you know, grab what you need to, or at least show it. You can center it, so if you wanted the wheel to be at, say, 90 degrees, but you wanted that to be your 0, you could do that. If you want to mount the wheelbase upside down, so it's 180 degrees flipped, but this should actually be right side up because of whatever setup you're using, you can do that as well. But a few things of note: you can change your max steering wheel angle in Pitous. I ran 540 for a very long time, and I noticed that depending on the car, I would burn up that right front, so I went back to a 900. But you can change it very quickly on the fly, and I'll show you how that relates in game here a little bit later. The other couple of things that you can do, so I know a lot of people like to rest their foot on the brake pedal, and as you can see right here, my foot is just barely resting on it. You can set it to where, like, let's say that is where you have your foot resting all the time. You can set that to be your minimum start point for those pedals, so that way when you're racing, if you're resting your foot on that brake pedal, it's not active until you push into it. Same thing with, say, your clutch. I actually have a very short throw on mine, so the minimum is as soon as I start to touch it, but the maximum, when we get to about there, it's only about a quarter of the pedal throw. The idea being is you can hit that clutch very quickly, and it registers fairly fast. Same thing with throttle. My throttle, I do something a little different, and I will show you that here as well. So we'll just go ahead and go into the R9 base, and I'll kind of walk through a few of my settings that I run. Like I said, I run the 900 degrees of steering wheel angle. You can use the presets if you like. I've found that you actually get a better feel by kind of setting it up yourself. The other thing is if there's something that you don't understand, you can hover over the exclamation points and it'll give you a lot of information. As far as road sensitivity, I crank that up because I want to feel everything in the steering wheel. Like I said, game force feedback, we're running at 100%. The wheel speed is how fast it returns. This is going to be like a personal preference thing. Kind of all depends on what you want to do. I don't mess with the wheel spring strength, wheel damper. Again, a little bit of what you want personal preference wise. Advanced settings. So there is a max output torque limit. I leave that down a little bit from 100 just so it doesn't wind up breaking anything. There is this hands-off protection, and I know if you've watched any of my streams, every once in a while you'll see the wheel just bouncing like crazy. Every time I do an update, it turns it off. I like to leave it on if I can help it, because then it doesn't oscillate when I'm not at the wheel. And then when you turn that on, you just select whichever wheel you've got, or as close to weight as possible. Natural inertia, it's just mainly made there to, like it says, match the feeling of a real race car. You can adjust this. I don't really mess with it. Same thing with wheel friction. I don't do speed dependent dampening. So I don't even have a start point for speed dependent dampening. Force feedback. I've seen boosted media where they mess with this and change things. I want as much feel as I can get, so I leave it at 100% all the time. I don't adjust it down. I don't adjust it up. I just leave it at 100. But these are things that you can play with to give yourself a little bit more feeling or whatnot. I use a linear curve on the thing. Again, I want it to feel as realistic as possible, so we just leave it at linear. Miscellaneous. So a few things that you can turn on and off. On the Moza, there is a base indicator light. When it's on, it's a little blue flashy guy. You can turn that on or off. I don't remember what soft limit. I've never messed with the soft limit slope. And then you can change your stuff with your temp control strategy, radical or conservative, because these things do get a little on the warm side. So keep that in mind. Once you have settings that you really like, I highly, highly suggest exporting the preset, naming it something, so that way, if something happens, you have to buy a new wheel or whatever, or you just have to uninstall the software. You can easily get back to that. So, okay, so now we're into the section that is for the steering wheel in the pit house, and all I did was click on the wheel on the left-hand side. You can turn this on and it'll show you the numbers for each of these buttons. So if you've got stuff in iRacing that you want to relate it to, or you just want to make sure that that's what it's pressed as, it'll give you button numbers for all of these. So for my D-pad, I leave it in button mode, so each one of these will act like a button instead of a D-pad, just because of the way that I use them. The RPM indicator is this little guy across the center. And this is something that you can adjust and whatnot. You can turn it off on however you want to do it. But note the brightness down here. I had Pitous turn this down. I wound up having to turn it back up. It was like that for 3 months until Diesel Weasel said something to me about it, and I found that little guy. So key thing to keep in mind. You can adjust when these lights kick on at, so you can you can adjust the curve of how your RPM lights are. So if you want to shift early, depending on how you drive a certain car or something, it's something to run with. Now we're into the pedal section, and this is where a lot of my adjustment comes in. So as you can see on the clutch output curves and stuff, I run a custom one, but I've shortened up the full length throw. So when I'm 100% in game, it's only 40% of the actual physical throw is 100%. So 40% of that pedal arc translates into 100% of the clutch pedal in game. So I can just quick stab it and make my shift and go. You can reverse the curves. How I don't really see a need to do that. One thing to note is the calibration. When you go to calibrate any of these pedals, you click calibrate. I like to cycle it all the way through 2 or 3 times, so that way it gets the full calibration. Brake pedal, I pretty much leave that alone, you know, just so I get that full sweep, and it gives me the most not adjustment, but feel. The one thing to note with the SRP pedals, there is this pressure point setting. So the more, or the lower the pressure point, the more of the load cell it uses. More pressure points, the less of the load cell it uses. I have mine set to 0. It completely goes off the load cell for me. It does not use any part of the Hall sensor to measure that sweep. The idea being, you get a more consistent feel, you get a more consistent braking. So keep that in mind. As far as my gas pedal, it looks pretty much the same as you know, our brake pedal, but the way that I have mine set, and you'll see, is 98% is actually 100% of the throttle. I do this because if for whatever reason the pedals get out of calibration or anything, it's still there, it still works. And sometimes it doesn't register 100%. I'm not really sure why. So, you know, I would suggest as you go, recalibrate the pedals every so often, and it'll save you a little bit. So I'll actually show you how you do it. So we'll just click start calibrate, and I'm just going to go ahead and cycle this pedal a few times, and it's counting down as we sit here. And then here in a second, calibration success. Any changes that you want to make for in-game and iRacing, make sure that you change it here first. You do your calibrations and everything before you jump in game. Then that way, when you go and do everything on the game side, it's seamless. It just starts working. Then you're not kind of going back and forth. So. There are a few other things with this system that I don't have, like the Moza dashboard. There's also the hub, so you can plug everything into one box and have one link to your PC. If you're limited on USB ports, I would highly suggest this. There's the HGP shifter stuff. Again, I don't use an HGP shifter. Also the sequential shifter, as well as the handbrake stuff. This is where you'll do all your updating. I do have an update to run on this system. I chose not to do it at this time just because I wanted to make sure that I got this out for you guys. But this will show you anything that's plugged in that needs to be updated and stuff like that. There's your system settings. You can force it to check for updates and stuff like that. There's the recovery reset stuff. So like I said, you can always bring your wheel back from what I would call quote unquote non-functioning or dead. You can also roll back to or you can go to experimental firmwares, or you can roll back to older firmwares as well. And then Q&A will take you over to their website. Okay, so now that we've went through you know, my setup, how Pitous works, we're gonna go ahead and jump into the iRacing side. I'll show you a couple of things there really quick. So now we are into the iRacing side of things. there's just a couple of things that you'll want to know, especially if this is your first direct drive. Obviously you want to make sure that your wheel range, your map range all match what you have in Pitous. As far as brakes, make sure that load cell brake is checked. Make sure your max range is set to 100. And then this is where things get kind of funky. So I set the strength to 9.9, so I went a little bit over that 9 that this system says it can do. Because I think if I remember, it's like 9.8 or something like that is what a Moza can actually push out. Wheel force I usually set to auto, intensity set to 50, smoothing 15, dampening and minimum force I set to 0. Min force won't do anything anyways, and dampening I would rather not. I would rather have all the feel that is available. So I mean, really there's only base settings that you need to worry about in here. But outside of that, I don't have anything else. Oh, the one thing that I do is I shut off reduce force when parked. The reason I do this is if I don't, and let's say I have an issue where force feedback isn't working, when you're parked, you won't feel it when you're doing this until you get out on track. And then 9 times out of 10, all you have to do is reboot your wheelbase and you're back in business. I would rather know that before I pull out onto the track. So something that is something to be mindful of. You may want to turn that off. But other than that, I don't really have any settings in iRacing per se that you need to really worry about. So that is my review of Moza for the last year. Like I said, I've been really happy with my stuff, enough that I decided to become an affiliate with them. If you're looking for a wheel, pedals, you got questions, shoot me a Discord message. I'll have that down link below. Also down below I'll have my affiliate code, so if you are in the market to look for a pedal set, wheelbase, I get a little bit of that, so it helps with the channel here. So feel free to use that. I'll have the link down below as well as the code if you need that. If you have a Moza, if you found something useful in this, let me know. Or if you've got more questions, want some more in-depth stuff, I'd be glad to make a video or go over it with you as well. On that note, guys, have a good one, and we'll catch you on the next one.